Everyone. So this is my family tree. I am gonna start with myself and then move through each side of my tree to explain a little bit more about where I come from. So a little bit about me, I got my bachelor's and my master's from UF, both in elementary education. I'm now working on my specialist degree in gifted and creative education. I am a fourth grade teacher. I was born in Athens, Georgia on October 12th, 1991. We moved to Sarasota when I was 14 years old. That's where I went to high school. And I was married on November 18th, 2017. And my husband and I now live in St. Petersburg, Florida. So my dad, Larry Stoltz, he has his PhD in microbiology and his law degree from the University of Georgia, which is actually why I was born in Athens. He was getting his law degree when I was born. He was a patent lawyer for many years, but he's retired now. He was born in Waldwick, New Jersey. His birthday is February 19th of 58. He moved down to Florida at the age of 13, and he has two kids, me and my brother. His parents are Peter Stoltz and Mary Wilcox Stoltz. So his dad was born in Evanston, Illinois. He went to Antioch College where he got his business degree, and then he worked for a long time at Kodak. And then after working at Kodak, he worked as a business manager. And he has three children. So my dad, and then his brother and his sister. Mary Wilcox Stoltz, my dad's mom. She has a business degree from Antioch College. It's actually where my grandparents met. But then she also went back later in life and got her specialist degree in education, which I thought was really cool. She was born in Monticello, Iowa in 32, and she has three children. Okay, so my grandfather, Peter Stoltz, his parents are Elwin Martin Stoltz Jr. and Janet McCarthy. So Elwin Martin Stoltz Jr. was born in Orwell, Ohio in 1899, and he was an artist. He actually worked for the Hubmobile and created advertisements for newspapers for them. And then later on, he became more of just a painter. Janet McCarthy was born in Evanston, Illinois. She was a homemaker. So one of the interesting things about this set of great grandparents for me is that when they were middle age, my great grandfather was having some health issues because they were living in Chicago at the time, and the doctor said he needed to go someplace that had clean air. So they purchased a little island called Cabbage Key, just sort of south of Sarasota, and they turned it into a little sort of bed and breakfast area. So really, my great grandmother um, had a lot of responsibilities running the inn and the little restaurant they had there. And something else that's really neat is that I share my birthday with my great grandmother. She was also born on October 12th. All right, so Elwin Martin Stoltz Jr., his father was Elwin Martin Stoltz Sr., and he was from Harpersfield, Ohio. And something interesting about him is that he actually owned the Buckeye Cereal Company. He was married to Annetta Babcock, who was born in Ohio in 1871, and the two of them had three children. Janet McCarthy's parents were John McCarthy and Mary Lincoln Taylor. John McCarthy immigrated from Tralee, Ireland. His family went to Canada when he was 12 and then later moved down into the New York area. Mary Lincoln Taylor, she was born at the end of the Civil War, which is actually where she got the middle name Lincoln. They named her after President Lincoln. And John McCarthy and Mary Lincoln Taylor had four children together. Okay, so now I'm going to jump to my grandmother's branch. So Mary Wilcox Stoltz, I talked a little bit about her already, but her parents were Harold and Agnes. They were both from Iowa, and they were both farmers. They both came from farming families. I thought it was pretty cool that Agnes Peterson was a teacher, like I am. That was pretty neat. Um, Edwin Wilcox and Mary Cameron were Harold Wilcox's parents. We know that Edwin Wilcox was born in Wyoming, Iowa, and was a farmer. We don't know much about Mary Cameron, but we do know that Edwin and Mary moved by covered wagon from Ohio to Iowa, and they had five children together. So Agnes Peterson's parents are Paul Peterson and Augusta Geyser. So Paul Peterson immigrated from Norway, so he did speak Norwegian, but learned English. He was married to Augusta Geyser, who was German, although my grandmother thinks that she was born in the US. Um, so grandmother doesn't know too much about her because she was 4 when her grandmother passed away. But a really interesting story that my grandmother was telling me is that Paul Peterson actually kept in touch with one of his shipmates that he immigrated with, a woman. And after Augusta Geiser died, Paul Peterson actually went out to California where he ended up remarrying his shipmate who he had met, who is also from Norway. And my grandmother said that that woman is the grandmother figure that she really remembers from growing up, even though she wasn't her biological grandmother. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about my mom's side of the family. So my mom is Nancy LeClaire Schultz. She has her PhD in biochemistry. My parents went to Johns Hopkins together when they were getting their PhDs. She is currently a lab coordinator and a professor at a local community college. She was born in Messina, New York in 58, and she has 2 children, me and my brother. So her parents are Barry and Rita. So Barry LeClaire, my grandfather, he got his medical degree from the University of Miami. He was a pharmacist first. Then he went to the University of Miami, got his medical degree, and became a general practitioner. He was born in Messina, New York in 31, and he has 2 children. Rita Clemenson is my grandmother, and she got her nursing degree from Union College in New York. She was a registered nurse. She was born in Adams, Massachusetts in 1932. She has 2 children. So my grandfather and my grandmother, they actually met at Union College when my grandmother was working on her nursing degree and my grandfather was working on his pharmacy degree. So Barry LeClaire's parents were Joseph LeClaire and Mary Barry. And I think maybe the reason he was named Barry is because that was his mom's maiden name. I'm not 100% sure, but just a guess. Joseph LeClaire was born in New York. He was a mail carrier. And one of the things that my grandfather did say about his dad is that he died at age 42 after having gallbladder surgery. And they think that something must have gone wrong during surgery, which ultimately caused him to pass away after. Um, my great grandmother, Mary Berry, was born in New York as well. She was a homemaker and she had 6 kids. All right, so Joseph LeClaire's parents are Jerry LeClaire, who was a farmer, and Alice, we don't know her maiden name, but she was a homemaker. We do know that both Jerry and Alice were French and Irish, and they had 3 kids together. So Mary Berry's parents were John Berry, and my grandfather could not remember much about his grandmother because she had passed away before he was ever born. But um, when we look at my grandmother's parents, James Clemenson and Marguerite Brannigan, we do know a little bit more about them. James Clemenson was born in Adams, Massachusetts in 1896. He was a highwayman, and Marguerite Brannigan was born in New York. She was a secretary, a town clerk, and she had 2 children. James Clemenson's parents are Herbert Clemenson, who was a mill worker, and Mary Ellen Curley, who was a homemaker as well. Oh, we do know that Herbert Clemenson's parents emigrated from Denmark, and then he and Mary Ellen had 6 kids together. Edward Brannigan, we think, was born in New York. Same with Mary Gardner, born in New York. My grandmother couldn't really remember too much about them, but we know that Edward Brannigan and Mary Gardner were both Irish, and they had 6 kids together as well. So this is a super interesting activity to go through and learn more, and also just to sort of connect with my grandparents in a new way by talking about our history. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks.